Wealth has been a central theme in many discussions throughout history, but few look to the Bible as a profound and practical guide on the subject. In this video, we will explore the habits of the wealthy men mentioned in the Bible, figures who accumulated not only material goods but also wisdom, virtue, and divine favor. These men not only prospered but also left us valuable lessons on how to achieve a life of true abundance. If you are seeking inspiration and guidance to transform your financial life, stay with us. Let's dive deep into this journey. Wealth in the Bible is never presented as an end in itself, but as a means to fulfill greater purposes. Men like Abraham, Job, Solomon, and many others were not rich merely by luck or circumstance. Their lives show consistent habits that connected them with success and divine provision. Let's explore these habits to understand what it truly means to be rich, not just in a material sense, but also in spiritual and emotional ways. Let's start with Abraham, one of the greatest examples of prosperity and faith. Abraham is described as an extremely wealthy man possessing flocks, silver, and gold. But his true wealth lay in his obedience and willingness to follow divine direction, even when it seemed illogical or challenging. He left his homeland not knowing exactly where he was going, trusting only in God's promise. This step of faith is one of the fundamental habits we find in people who achieve great success. They are willing to step out of their comfort zones, take calculated risks, and trust in something greater than themselves. Abraham also teaches us the importance of alliances. He valued relationships and was a man of peace, as seen in his interaction with Lot, his nephew. When conflicts arose between his herdsmen and those of Lot, Abraham chose peace over strife, allowing Lot to choose the best part of the land. This attitude not only preserved their family relationship, but also demonstrated his confidence that God would supply his needs, regardless of the circumstances. The lesson here is clear. Generosity and trust in God open doors that greed and selfishness could never open. Another striking example is Job. Job is known for his incredible patience and faith in the face of adversity, but he is also an example of a wealthy man who lived justly. The Bible describes Job as the richest man in the East, possessing thousands of sheep, camels, oxen, and donkeys. But what set Job apart was not just his wealth, but how he managed it. He was fair in his dealings, cared for the needy, and recognized that everything he had came from God. When he lost everything, his faith remained unshaken, and God restored his fortune, doubling all that he had before. The habit we learn from Job is that of integrity and gratitude. No matter how much you possess, recognizing that everything is a divine blessing is essential to maintaining a healthy perspective on wealth. And then we have Solomon, perhaps the most famous example of wealth and wisdom in the Bible. Solomon asked God for wisdom to govern his people, and as a result, he received not only wisdom but also immeasurable riches. Solomon teaches us the importance of seeking first what is most important: wisdom. He understood that with wisdom, he could manage his wealth effectively, make fair decisions, and lead with excellence. Furthermore, Solomon was diligent. He built the temple in Jerusalem with meticulous details, leading large projects with organization and vision. This habit of planning and executing projects diligently is one of the pillars for achieving and maintaining wealth. Additionally, Solomon warns us against the dangers of excessive attachment to wealth. In Ecclesiastes, he reflects on the futility of seeking riches as the ultimate goal of life. His conclusion: the true purpose lies in fearing God and keeping His commandments. This reminds us that wealth without a greater purpose is empty and unsatisfying. Another noteworthy biblical character is Joseph, the son of Jacob. Despite starting his journey as a slave and prisoner, Joseph became the second most powerful man in Egypt. What led Joseph to this level of success was his ability to interpret dreams and his strategic planning skills. When he predicted 7 years of abundance followed by 7 years of famine, he devised a plan to store food, saving Egypt and other nations from hunger. The habit we learn from Joseph is that of long-term vision and wise management. He did not merely react to circumstances but anticipated them, ensuring the prosperity of everyone under his leadership. These examples are just the beginning. The Bible is full of stories of men and women who prospered by following divine principles and cultivating specific habits. These habits include unwavering faith, generosity, diligence, wisdom, and integrity. They are not just formulas for material wealth, but also for living a full life aligned with God's purposes. In the next few minutes, we will delve deeper into each of these habits, exploring how they can be applied in your life today. If you have ever felt that you are struggling to move forward financially, or that something is missing in your approach, this video is for you. Together, we will learn from the examples of the wealthy men of the Bible and discover how to transform your finances, your mindset, and above all, your life. So, get ready for a journey that will not only educate you, but also inspire you to adopt new habits and see wealth from a new perspective. Because in the end, true wealth is not just what you have, but who you become in the process. Let's continue. Now, continuing our journey through the habits of the wealthy men in the Bible, it is important to focus on the practical details and the lessons we can apply in our lives today. The examples we have explored so far have shown us that prosperity is not a matter of chance, but rather of consistent actions and a mindset rooted in solid principles. Let's now dive into some specific habits that were crucial for the wealth and success of these biblical figures. One of the most evident habits is generosity. Observing the stories of men like Abraham, Job, and Solomon, it is clear that they all understood that wealth was not just for their own benefit. They had a broader vision, realizing that the abundance they possessed was also a responsibility. Abraham, for example, did not hesitate to share with Lot and to be generous with those around him. Job, even in his trial, is remembered as someone who cared for the poor, widows, and orphans. Solomon, in his wisdom, highlighted the importance of giving joyfully and investing in the community. This habit of generosity is transformative because it challenges the scarcity mindset, which often prevents people from growing financially. When you are generous, you declare that you trust in a greater supply, in a source that is limitless. And this not only blesses others but creates a cycle of return, as we see in Luke 6:38. Give, and it will be given to you. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over will be put into your bosom. This principle remains true to this day. Generosity opens doors, connects people, and creates opportunities that often cannot be measured solely in financial terms. Another habit that appears repeatedly in the lives of these men is discipline in work. None of them achieved prosperity without effort. While they received God's blessings, they also put their hands to work. Solomon, for example, dedicated years to planning and constructing the temple, demonstrating a level of diligence and commitment that is inspiring. Job, before his adversities, was known for managing vast properties and resources. Abraham led large flocks and had an organizational structure that allowed his wealth to grow. These examples show us that work is not just a means to achieve wealth, but also a way to express our talents and honor God with our abilities. Furthermore, all these men had a long-term vision. They were not just focused on the present, but thought about future generations. Abraham, for example, received the promise that he would be the father of many nations and lived according to that vision, building a legacy that would last forever. Joseph, in his position in Egypt, not only saved the people from famine, but also established a system that brought long-term prosperity to the nation. Solomon, in building the temple, was creating a spiritual and cultural legacy that would transcend his own life. This habit of thinking long-term is essential for anyone who wishes to thrive sustainably. It encourages us to plan, invest wisely, and make decisions that will benefit not only our lives but also future generations. Faith also plays a central role in the lives of these men. They trusted in God not only to provide, but also to guide them in their decisions. This trust allowed them to make bold choices, such as leaving their homeland in Abraham's case or facing adversities, as Job did. Faith is not just a feeling, but a daily habit of depending on God and aligning our actions with His will. And it is this habit that gives strength to continue even when circumstances seem unfavorable. Another important point worth highlighting is the wise management of resources. None of the wealthy men in the Bible were reckless with what they possessed. Joseph, for example, dedicated years to planning and constructing the temple, demonstrating a level of diligence and commitment that is inspiring. managed Egypt's resources so efficiently that he not only saved the country from famine, but also turned it into an economic powerhouse during the years of crisis. Solomon was known for his wisdom in managing the wealth of Israel, investing in trade and strategic alliances. This ability to manage well what we have is an essential habit for anyone who wishes to thrive. It means spending wisely, saving, and investing for the future, but also recognizing that everything we have belongs to God and should be used in a way that honors Him. Ultimately, it is impossible to talk about wealth habits without mentioning humility and the acknowledgement that everything comes from God. Even with all their wealth, these men never lost sight of the fact that they were merely stewards of divine blessings. Job recognized this when he said, "The Lord gave, and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord." Abraham built altars to worship God at various times in his life, demonstrating his gratitude and dependence. Solomon, in his wisdom, wrote in Proverbs that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and lived much of his life based on this principle. These habits, when practiced together, create a solid foundation for a life of prosperity that goes beyond material wealth. They teach us that being truly rich is living in alignment with God's purposes, using our resources to positively impact the world around us. And this is something we can all achieve, regardless of where we start or what we currently possess. The key is to develop these habits consistently, with faith, diligence, and a generous heart. The prosperity of these men was not limited to themselves. It spread to benefit others, creating networks of blessings that multiplied. This is a principle worth exploring in greater depth. First, we observe that these men understood the importance of positive influence. Abraham, for example, not only accumulated wealth but also served as an example of faith and leadership. His willingness to intercede for Sodom and Gomorrah shows how he used his position of closeness to God to seek the good of others. He was not just a wealthy man, but a spiritual leader, someone who deeply cared about the impact of his actions. This trait serves as a powerful reminder that true wealth includes the ability to positively influence the people around us. Joseph, in turn, demonstrated that effective resource management can literally save lives. When he was put in charge of Egypt, he not only ensured the survival of the nation during the famine, but also opened the doors for people from other lands, including his own family, to be helped. This teaches us that wisely managed wealth can be an instrument of provision in times of crisis. Joseph did not merely accumulate riches, he used them to create a lasting impact and save generations. Another point worth highlighting is the role of wisdom in building and maintaining wealth. Solomon, for example, was the wisest man of his time, and his wealth was a direct reflection of his wisdom. He knew how to build alliances, invest in strategic projects, and make decisions that benefited not only himself but the entire kingdom of Israel. In his story, we see how essential it is to seek wisdom before pursuing wealth. This priority creates a solid foundation that protects against the dangers of a life focused solely on material goods. Still, Solomon also warns us about the dangers of straying from the original purpose. Despite his wisdom, he became involved in alliances and practices that ultimately brought negative consequences for himself and his kingdom. This part of his story reminds us that even with wealth and wisdom, it is crucial to remain faithful to God's principles. Humility and the acknowledgement that all wealth comes from God are indispensable elements to avoid the mistakes that can arise with success. Job's life also offers a profound example of how to deal with adversity without losing perspective on wealth. Job lost everything he had, but he never lost his faith. He continued to trust in God, even in the most difficult circumstances, and was rewarded with double of all he had before. This story teaches us that resilience and perseverance are essential habits for those who wish to build wealth that withstands the ups and downs of life. Finally, it is important to mention that these men did not seek wealth for the simple desire to accumulate goods. For them, wealth was a means to fulfill divine purposes in their lives. This transformative perspective helped them keep their priorities aligned and use their possessions in a way that glorified God. This habit of seeing wealth as a tool, not an end, is one of the most powerful lessons we can learn from them. In conclusion, the habits of the rich men of the Bible show us that true wealth goes far beyond the material. It is built on faith, generosity, diligence, wisdom, and humility. These principles are as relevant today as they were in biblical times, and when we apply them in our lives, we open the door to a prosperity that transcends circumstances. Just like Abraham, Job, Solomon, and Joseph, we can build a life of impact, not just by accumulating wealth, but also by using it to create a legacy that honors God and blesses future generations. As we continue our exploration of the habits of the rich men of the Bible, it is essential to reflect on how these principles can be applied in everyday life. The Bible not only presents inspiring examples but also provides practical guidelines for those who wish to achieve a life of true prosperity, balancing material goods, spiritual values, and a positive impact on the world. A key characteristic of the rich men of the Bible is their ability to plan. Planning is more than just predicting the future. It is setting clear goals and strategies to achieve them. Joseph, for example, is an exceptional model in this regard. When he interpreted Pharaoh's dream about 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine, he not only foresaw the problem but also presented a practical solution. He organized the collection of food during the years of plenty and stored it for the years of crisis. This vision and ability to plan not only saved Egypt but also demonstrated how planning can transform challenges into opportunities. In our lives, this can translate into having a budget, saving, investing, and being prepared for unexpected events. Another essential habit we can observe is the ability to learn from mistakes and adapt. Solomon, despite his great wisdom, made mistakes in his life by deviating from God's principles. However, his reflection in the book of Ecclesiastes demonstrates his ability to look back, recognize mistakes, and learn from them. This honesty with oneself and with others is a valuable habit for anyone seeking growth and prosperity. The ability to learn from mistakes helps us avoid repeating them and build a more solid future. Discipline is another striking trait of these men. Discipline is what transforms intentions into actions and actions into results. Job, even amidst devastating losses, remained disciplined in his faith and trust in God. His story reminds us that discipline is not just about hard work, but also about maintaining focus and persistence even when circumstances are difficult. For us, discipline can manifest in habits like meeting deadlines, committing to financial goals, and consistency in spiritual practices. Additionally, the rich men of the Bible demonstrated a deep connection with gratitude. Gratitude is a habit that transforms our perception of life and helps us appreciate what we already have. Abraham, for example, frequently built altars to thank God for the blessings received. Job, even in the midst of losses, acknowledged God's sovereignty and expressed gratitude. This attitude of gratitude not only brings us closer to God, but also helps us maintain a positive perspective, even in the face of challenges. Finally, one aspect that cannot be overlooked is the importance of living with purpose. All the rich men of the Bible had a greater purpose that guided their actions. Abraham followed God's promises to form a great nation. Joseph saw his position in Egypt as an opportunity to save lives. Solomon sought to govern wisely for the benefit of his people. Living with purpose is what gives meaning to wealth, transforming it into a tool for something greater. Without purpose, wealth becomes empty and unsatisfying. Therefore, one of the most important habits we can develop is to align our actions and resources with a greater purpose that transcends our own interests. As we conclude this reflection, it is evident that the habits of the rich men of the Bible go far beyond simple financial strategies. They involve a holistic approach to life that combines faith, work, wisdom, generosity, and purpose. These principles are an invitation to transform our relationship with wealth, seeing it as a blessing to be managed with responsibility and gratitude. When we apply these habits in our lives, we not only become more prosperous, but also draw closer to living a life truly aligned with God's purposes. May these lessons continue to inspire you to seek not only material wealth, but also a wealth of character, spirituality, and positive impact in the world. Thus far, we have seen how faith, generosity, planning, wisdom, Discipline, gratitude, and purpose are indispensable elements for building a life of true prosperity. Now is the time to reflect on how to apply these lessons in our daily lives, with the conviction that change is possible. The wealth as presented in the Bible is not an isolated goal, but a reflection of a life lived in harmony with divine principles. The examples of Abraham, Job, Solomon, and Joseph show us that prosperity is more than material goods. It is a state of fullness that includes peace, positive impact, and a deep connection with God. This leads us to a crucial question. What are we doing with the resources and talents entrusted to us? How can we use them to create a meaningful life and contribute to the greater good? One of the most important points we have learned is that prosperity begins with small steps. Perhaps you are not in a position of abundance right now, but that does not mean you cannot start cultivating habits that will lead you to a prosperous future. Generosity, for example, can start with small acts, such as helping someone in need or donating a portion of your earnings to a meaningful cause. Discipline can be practiced by setting simple financial goals, such as saving regularly or avoiding unnecessary spending. Gratitude can be exercised every day by recognizing the blessings that already exist in your life. It is also essential to remember that true wealth is deeply rooted in faith. When we trust in God, we are empowered to face challenges with courage, make decisions with wisdom, and live with purpose. This trust helps us see opportunities where others see obstacles and find strength in adversity. Just as Abraham trusted in God's promises, we are called to trust that He has a plan for our lives and that His blessings are available to those who walk in His ways. Another important lesson is the significance of building a legacy. The wealthy men of the Bible did not live only for themselves. They had a vision for the future, a vision that included impacting generations. This challenges us to think beyond our own desires and needs and to consider how our actions can benefit others. Whether through financial investments, altruistic actions, or teaching principles of faith and wisdom to our children, each of us has the power to leave a lasting legacy. Finally, the greatest lesson we can draw from this reflection is that true wealth lies in balance. Material wealth without spiritual principles is empty. On the other hand, a life full of faith and values, but without diligence or planning, can also face difficulties. The secret is to align our earthly efforts with heavenly purposes, creating a life of abundance in every sense. Now, the next step is up to you. The stories we have explored and the habits we have discussed are like seeds. It is up to you to plant them in your life. Water them with practice and perseverance and await the growth that will surely come. Remember that God is the source of all wisdom and provision. Trust in Him, work diligently, live with generosity and purpose, and see how your life will be transformed. May these lessons continue to inspire your journey. May you be blessed with prosperity, peace, and a life rich in meaning and impact. And above all, may your journey glorify God, the true source of all wealth. Thank you very much for joining us thus far. May God bless your life abundantly.